So I think we'll get started. We have a lot to cover today. So Evan, you can begin.
Sure. I just want to start with CCA, a land acknowledgement. At CCA, we understand land acknowledgement as a transformative act meant to confront our place on native land and to build mindfulness of our present participation in colonial legacies. As CCA faculty, staff, and students, we affirm our responsibility to amplify Indigenous voices. We stand in solidarity with local Indigenous communities, and we respect local Indigenous protocol. We practice land acknowledgement at CCA in order to teach and promote greater public consciousness of Native sovereignty and cultural rights. California College of the Arts campuses are located in Huichin and Yelamu, also known as Oakland and San Francisco, on the unceded territory of Chochenyo and Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. So with that, I wanted to say, start with saying Margaret and I are co-directors and co-founders of the Architectural Ecologies Lab, a lab dedicated to collaborative research between designers, scientists, leaders developing strategies to address climate change. And last fall, our studio focus was Islais Creek in the Bayview Hunters Point neighborhood, an area particularly vulnerable to sea level rise and with a legacy of pollution and economic marginalization. Locally, our students met and worked online with fourth graders from Malcom X Academy in Bayview. And nationally, the studio work is part of a larger conversation through the LAF Green New Deal Super Studio, which looks to give visions to regional proposals that demonstrate principles of decarbonization, justice, and jobs. The studio work will be exhibited there as part of this national effort on September in 2021.
Architecture in action. What is possible now is the question of the event today. The architectural projects presented in the virtual exhibition that we hope you all have an opportunity to visit, and we'll put in the chat later, are the most comprehensive design studios at CCA, and give a vision to what's possible at Islais Creek. However, within the complexity are simple and practical first steps that can demonstrate how tangible change can begin now. So our goal here is to discuss how these first step proposals can happen, what funding streams are available, what is feasible, and what would make the most impact in the neighborhood. As background to this presentation, the work of Architectural Ecologies Lab starts generally with studio speculations that you see above, and then informs pilot projects in the field, which are our most current projects below. Monterey, we have a project, Monterey Bay, we had some plates. The float lab is floating right now in the Port of Oakland, where we have oyster plates soon to be installed in the Presidio National Park, and we're working with local weavers in the Maldives for ecological restoration work. And so I wanted to introduce you to Dustin Smith. He's the Director of Academic Administrations in the Architecture Division. And Dustin helps us navigate how to implement our research projects. So Dustin, if you could just say hi in a few words.
Sure, yeah, thank you so much for all the great collaborative work that everyone's been doing on this project. It's always wonderful to see things move through the stages of planning and initial conversations and the light bulb ideas that go off. And then when we see our students come together, that's when the magic really starts to happen. So a little bit about CCA Architecture and what I help to do. You know, we have 4 academic programs and 4 research and teaching labs, and the Architectural Ecologies Lab is one of our best, one of my favorites, let's just say that. But part of the reason why we do these is so that our students get the opportunities to work within our local Bay Area communities and really think about the ways that architecture and design impacts everything that we do in our cities. And so for me, I'm really excited about how we take these big ideas and how we put down some concrete steps towards making them happen. So moving from the drawings and the conversations, you know, into how does this become like a physical, tangible, real world project that we can experience, you know, together safely, of course. But yeah, that's a little bit about you know, what I do at the school, and there's a lot of paperwork that we have to do, and there's a lot of you know, boxes that we need to check. And I think part of what we're always doing is we're bringing a really an open mind and an open opportunity, or an openness to the kinds of opportunities that we can do when we think about things together, and we make sure that everyone's interests are being met. And so that's a little bit about our philosophy, and yeah, just really excited to be here and to listen and to learn more.
And you know, all the paperwork that Dustin talks about is part of the education too, especially for students, because it's not something you're particularly focused on in studio, but it is the reality of how things actually get implemented. So that's something I think would be really valuable for them to experience. So I want to also introduce our distinguished panel guests before we get started with student presentations. So Dennis Carmichael from our Carmichael and Associate, and he is our we're really fortunate to have him. He is representing the LFS Green New Deal Super Studio. So thank you, Dennis, for joining us from the East Coast. Maybe you could give, you have a scope of work, but what some of the experiences you've had in practice as a landscape architecture might be able to bring to this conversation, and why you're interested in joining us.
Well, I've been working on what I would call urban revitalization projects all across America for the past 30 to 40 years. Noteworthy among them, Centennial Olympic Park in downtown Atlanta, and Wharf District Park in Boston, which was part of the Big Dig. And I would call those two projects impossible. They were outrageous, they were ridiculous, they cost way too much money, and guess what? They both happened, and they both have had a major transformation of those cities. So I guess what I would say is, don't be afraid to dream big. Make friends with people who can help get the funding and help create the political will to make these things happen, because you can do it. You can get it done.
Great, thank you so much. And Maria de Alva, Public Realm Coordinator, City Design, San Francisco Citywide Planning Division. Maria?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Yes, thank you,
so nice
Margaret and Evan. Nice meeting you too. And really excited to be here and hearing about the projects. I know that students are really excited and really want to get something implemented. And this is great because we really need that energy to implement these projects. And you know, like echoing what Dennis said, find the partners, finding the stewards in the community that will really, you know, not only help implement the projects, but really maintain them and program them and love them, so that they can then become part of that community and even, you know, bigger and greater than what you had designed at first. So really excited to be here and seeing all the projects. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maria. And then Robin Abad, Robin, you were our first step. Literally, when we first, I see Adam's here. Adam said we should reach out to Robin, because Robin, when we were thinking about Islais Creek, and we reached out to you last summer, and you were really the person that helped us land in the right way at Islais Creek. So I really feel like you were our first step, and look what has come of this. It's just, we've met an amazing group of people that are in this space today that we're so grateful for. So thank you, Robin, and thanks for joining, and maybe a little background into who you are and how you might, why you're interested in being here today.
Yes, thank you, Margaret and Evan, and to Adam for you know, reaching out about this. The work that you know, your lab at CCA does is so impactful. It's very consequential. It's based in real, you know, citizen science work, and I'm really excited for how that, you know, obviously continues to be part of the kind of cutting edge work that CCA does, but also involving the way that it's spawned collaboration with Malcom X Middle School and Y-Plan at UC Berkeley. It's such a powerful combination of collaboration and a new form. And that's really, when we pull back, that's what resiliency is all about. You know, there is ecological, you know, and environmental resiliency. We're looking at some really incredible ideas about how we can approach that through design and through science. But also, I think, as Maria had mentioned, the community building and strengthening the networks between institutions like CCA and Malcom, and just between people. So the fact that we have, you know, a multi-generational collaboration happening with people at all different stages of personal development. You know, we've got kids in middle school, as well as folks pursuing advanced degrees in architecture, all thinking together about how we all come together around a solution. So I'm really excited for this past semester's project to be the start of, you know, deeper, you know, continued intentional collaboration between all of the different agencies, planning, CCA, and of course, Islais is in a part of our city that has been, you know, subject to a lot of environmental injustice, a lot of social and racial injustice, and that it's even more important for us as a community, as a city, as institutions, to, as we look towards a more resilient future, understand that special context and the deeper needs that come with operating in a neighborhood like this. So I'm really honored. I was very long-winded. I will say, oh, thanks. I do have to, unfortunately, I have to leave a little bit early. My other job has got me pulled into something else that I have to go to. So, but that, I do that, and I just want folks to know it's at all not disrespect for the amazing work that's happened here. I really regret that I won't be able to witness it all. But thank you, Margaret and Evan.
Oh, sure. Thank you for joining. Thanks, Robin. And so I want to just, I'm going to hand it over to Roxana, but just to begin, this was a question that Y Plan posed to the fourth graders, and I wanted to just say hello to the fourth grade Malcom X class, Miss Saeed and Miss Bryant. We are just really grateful that you're in the room, that you could see these new ideas that our students have developed from this question: how can we repair, create a Bayview that is safe, thriving, equitable? The students, the fourth grade students, tackled this issue, talk to our students, and our students interpret it through not only their studio project, but in the pilot proposals they'll present now. So Roxana?
Hi, good morning. My name is Roxana Breceda, and I'll be introducing you to 3 of the projects we did on last semester. So we'll start with Valeria's and Maria's. It's the Activist Research Center. It provides a gathering space for Bayview's community to take action on climate change and pollution. The building is a lab itself, using all the surfaces as testing zones. The open plan allows programs to merge while encouraging involvement and curiosity. The public gets a glimpse into the science behind pollution, while the researchers are reminded of the need for justice. The second project, yes?
Oh, I didn't go through the slides. These are both, yeah, okay, there you go.
The second project is from Chris and Steven. It's called EARTH, and it stands for Environmental Awareness Research and Teaching Hub. EARTH serves as a new node for ecology, stewardship, community engagement that will reconnect the city of San Francisco with the water's edge of Islais Creek. Our site is divided into 3 zones that are related to these programs and will further build connections with nearby Huron's Head Park and Yosemite Slope. On site, new floating wetlands will be built and deployed into Islais Creek to help clean the water, educate the community, and create new habitats for local ecology in the creek. Their project is by myself and Javier. Worldwide, there is an alarming decline in the pollinators population due to the excessive use of pesticides, urban development, and climate change. 75% of our food production and 90% of our flowering plants depend heavily on pollinators. Pollinators are not just vital for human survival, but also for habitats and ecosystems around the world. The Pollinator Power Hub is a series of water and ground floating structures that work together for the salvation and repopulation of pollinators, where the community will work together to act on this global problem. So for the Pollinator Power Hub pilot project, we are introducing to create and design a pollinator hotel. One of the floating structures of our project was a pollinator sanctuary, where we had pollinator friendly plants inside and just take over the structure. So this space in our project was designed for the pollinators, for the birds and insects that pollinate. And so we want to take this idea and make a pollinator hotel, as you could see on the picture above, which it could be, it's kid friendly. And our goal is to share this project with the community and maybe do it with the, if it's possible, do it with the Malcom X students. And it's like, unlike honeybees, most native bees are solitary and do not nest in colonies. So about 30% of the bees are solitary cavity nesters. So this would be a pollinator hotel will definitely help all those solitary bees that are just looking for places to go. So we would, the goal is to design a type of hexagon structure with plywood and maybe CNC some holes where we could start to put this twigs or this scrap material to create the bee hotel. So you would just be filling them in with bamboo or recycled material. And the fun part about this is that it could also be, it goes into pollinator gardens, but we do see it as something that can be replicated throughout the community. So we would have various ones. And obviously we would also try to push to plant pollinator friendly plants. That way we could also educate the community of what are the pollinator friendly plants that are really important for our pollinators to repopulate. Thank you.
Valeria or Maria, can you explain your project?
Yeah, my name is Maria and my partner is Valeria, and we're also working on the water and pollution. So we decided we got inspired by all of the kids' like art and ideas. So we thought that making fun trash cans and working with the community to incentivize people to know where to throw the trash would be a really implementable project and really realistic project to do, and a small way to start. So to cleaning the bay and helping with cleaning and less trash. So that's what our idea is, and just like art and volunteer.
Perfect. Thank you. That leads right into Chris. There you go. Chris?
Hi, my name's Chris and my partner Stephen. And the floating wetlands pilot project, it could be built by members of the community and organizations in the area. Hopefully this project will involve Malcom X students, and the hope is a collaboration between them and one of the organizations, such as Literacy for Environmental Justice, the Port of SF, or the Ecologies Lab. Some of the resources needed would be funding for basic materials such as hay, soil, seeds for different types of plants, and biomass foam. And this project, it could be built by hand. It could be something that's ongoing and monitored by the stewards and the community members. And floating wetlands, they're not something foreign to our nation or cities. Many examples are found in places like Louisiana, Baltimore, or Boston. Floating wetlands have plant, soil, and root interactions that can help clean the water which can increase sedimentation and bring new nutrients to the creek. And they can provide a new home for the local ecology in the area.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Chris. MJ, do you want to introduce the Orange Room?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is MJ Engeta, and I'll be introducing two projects today, one by Mitsuko, Dev, and AJ, and one by Yugi and I. Bayview. This project is by Mitsuko, Dev, and AJ. The Bayview Cultural Academy celebrates the history and its environment and provides a space for culture and education. It archives the community's history and creates a new gathering space for all age groups. Bayview Cultural Academy will bring together its resilient neighborhood as much deserves safe, healthy space for nurturing physical and mental health that creates and serves as an urban lantern for the community. Learning Pathways is designated for the Bayview Hunters Point neighborhood to give space for intergenerational learning, environmental education, and coastal adaptation. Designed to be accessible by all, the project is composed of 2 towers elevated on the platform, which are connected through a single ramp. The ramp allows a connection between the building, the park, and the surrounding neighborhood, which allows users to experience non-traditional ways of learning presented throughout the project.
So you can present your project, MJ and Yui, and then we'll have Deb, Mitsuko, or
Okay.
AJ.
And our project is called Play to Learn. It's a home-based DUI project that allows students to learn about responsibilities in the process of planting, finding creative ways to utilize home-found materials as planters. For example, home-found materials such as eggshells, milk cartons, or even delivery boxes could all be transformed into planters, showcasing to students to think at various scales and perspectives by witnessing plants grow in their very own home. Planting instructions and seeds would be provided by us. We see this as a year-round seasonal project, different seasons for different seeds. We will provide a text instructions and seeds, and the Malcom X Academy students can transform the text into seeds pockets with drawing instructions. This could be as simple as a postcard format with one side is the planting instructions and the other side is the plant's educational information. These seed pockets can be brought home for themselves and or shared with neighbors, creating engagement with the community.
Thank you. Dev, Mitsuko, or AJ, do you want to present your pilot project?
So we are proposing to introduce potted fruit trees throughout Bayview and Hunters Point, which offers positive environmental, social, and safety aspect to the community. The result of partnering with Malcom X students, which is potted trees, are a great alternative to having trees planted on the ground, since parts of Bayview areas have been contaminated by previous nuclear waste and pollution from surrounding industrial areas. And with this pilot initiative, it would create different types of gathering space that may be as small as a potted fruit tree with a bench around it, or it can have multiple fruit trees in a large space for exhibit for local art. Along with that, lights surround the fruit trees for safety.
Yeah, so the concept came about when we're in our studio conversing with the 4th graders, where they wanted fruit trees or fruit grove on our project. And then the question came with that was safety. So is safety as small as adding some lights that would give them some visual comfort in a way would promote the safety aspect, as well as having fruit trees for the local community.
Yeah, and so in addition to that, fruit trees that were researched consist of apple trees, peach, orange, plum, and lemon trees. These are trees that are able to produce fruit after 2 to 4 years. It has been found that the dwarf versions, which you can see on the middle right image, produce faster and don't need as much pruning and maintenance. So the entire community and the dense cityscape would benefit from healthy and attractive space that provide clean air and space for nurturing physical and mental health.
Nice, thank you.
Great.
Thanks so much. All right, finally, the green room. And Elmer. Oops. Elmer, do you want to introduce the two projects from the green room?
Yes, give me a moment here.
Sure.
Okay, so I am introducing Jennifer and Michelle's project and me and Pietro's project. So first, Jennifer and Michelle. Islais Creek is a food desert with little to no access to grocery stores in the neighborhood. The students have very specific yet urgent desires for their community. They wanted more trees, cooking classes, and healthy food options. This project addresses these issues on multiple fronts: food education, job training, and food production. We have over 20,000 square feet of rooftop garden to show children and adults in the community how to grow food. And then me and Pietro, we have our project. Farm Marina aims to address the issues of food insecurity and job scarcity as a vertical aquaponic farming cooperative and distribution center. The farm provides fresh and healthy produce, high-tech farming jobs, education, and food distribution. A weekly farmers market takes place on the public ground floor, while a fully stocked and affordable grocery store is easily accessible every day to all members of the community.
Great, thank you. And so Pietro and Elmer, or Pietro, do you want to introduce your pilot?
Yeah, we are proposing a pilot project that brings miniature hydroponic gardens to the 4th grade kids and families of Malcom X Academy. These DIY hydroponic kits would include prefabricated parts and assembly instructions for kids and parents to assemble at home. And we would also hold a maker workshop at the school, possibly in the fall, to assemble and plant the little gardens. Whether at home or in the classroom, these gardens would yield fresh flowers, herbs, and vegetables to share in class or over dinner. And caring for these gardens would also yield hands-on knowledge and experience with plants and hydroponic growing. You know, what better way to learn biology than to observe and care for plants from seed to flower? The project would require funding for the parts, including pipes, tubing, containers, growing baskets, and medium. And parts for the kit could be prefabricated and packaged at CCA and then brought to Malcom X for the fall semester. This project promotes environmental justice in several ways. Urban gardens reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and big agriculture produce. They increase resiliency in the face of natural disasters and economic crises impacting the food supply. And they even improve the air quality in our neighborhoods and homes. Highly efficient hydroponic and aquaponic gardens can contribute significantly to the conservation of our precious water, which is in increasing demand in California's farms, while being ever more scarce due to drought. The use of hydroponics is an acknowledgement of the environmental pollution that makes the soil in coastal areas of Hunters Point hazardous for growing food. And the intention is to supplement the produce of existing and future community gardens growing in areas with clean soil. Exposure to gardening and diverse plants orients us positively towards biodiversity and healthy eating. And it's also a joy to see plants grow in the home, the classroom, or on the patio. So
Perfect.
that's
Thank
our
you.
proposal.
Thanks, Pietro. And Michelle or Jennifer, the kitchen cart?
Sure. This is Michelle, and Jennifer and I worked together last semester. One of the things the students asked for, the Malcom X students asked for, was cooking classes to so they could learn how to cook healthy meals. And our proposal for the pilot project is a mobile kitchen cart that would it could be deployed in the parks or at the school or maybe at fairs or something where people could demonstrate cooking healthy food, and then everyone could enjoy a meal together. And this could involve all members of the community. The parts that would be needed are plywood and stuff to make the structure, and then purchase of kitchen equipment, pots and pans, and probably a propane stove. And then salary for the person who's doing the cooking and the prep work.
Thank you. Good, thank you. So we are going to actually move to a mural. Lena, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Okay, so we'll stop the share and then maybe you can share the mural.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Robin is not here, but Dennis and Maria and anyone else that wants to chime in terms of the conversation of where to begin. But I will start with Maria and Dennis. This is mural. We're putting the link to this mural. Everyone can go there and look at these more closely and then leave notes. So if you don't want to speak in the Zoom space, you can also leave notes, post-it notes. Maybe Lena, you can show how that can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just posting the link to it now. And if you wanted to add anything, you can open this tab on the side. Here are the post-it notes, and then you can drag and drop anywhere and then type what you would like.
Type any thoughts that come to mind. So Dennis and Maria, if you could begin some kind of, this is the first time you've been introduced to these 7 projects and some of the thoughts that come to mind in their presentation.
Well, first of all, I love them, and they all seem quite doable. And there's almost an opportunity to have these be consumer friendly, like not site specific, but could go and be almost anywhere. And the one that caught my attention in that way most clearly was the Pollinator Hotel. I love the idea of it. I love the form of it as hexagonal, because that's what honeycombs are. And it occurred to me, and I don't know the scale of these individual things, it occurred to me, if you went to one of the tech companies that does 3D printing and you said, can you guys make this? They would probably make it in 2 days. And then all of a sudden you would be finding it on eBay and it would be everywhere. And I'm not kidding. If you think big and scalable, well, first of all, you have to figure out the technology and how to make it be consumer proof. But why would you limit yourself to just this site? This is a fabulous idea. And
so how could, I think that's really interesting that all of them could be a scalable, that they can start as, they all could be done, maybe except for the food cart, but even that has a scale.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it would have to be done in a way that you kind of went to places where the pollinators are, because one of the things that I was thinking of is, well, if you're in this toxic area where the soils are horrible and maybe the plant life is not that robust, I wasn't aware of what the existing condition is. Well, maybe no matter what you do, you might not get pollinators. But if you bring this idea out into other parts of the city, then it might have a wider use.
It could be the Malcom X, because it would be nice if it was, even if the parts were done that were cut, obviously with CNC machines, but they could be assembled like in a classroom. And then it's something that, because it could be scaled. One of the things about digital fabrication is that this could be scaled for a house, or it could be scaled for a park.
Exactly.
So kids could make them and take them to their house with pollinator plants or in their neighborhood. So I really like that idea. Maria?
Sorry, I was on mute.
No.
I win the bingo. So yeah, first of all, this is just amazing work. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing here, and I love, like Dennis said, this is, you know, the scale of every project is very different, which is great. It shows kind of the way that it could be applied in different settings. I almost see, you know, in my head, I see kind of finding a site where a sort of platform is created where it could be programmed with all of these things either together or during a year or so. I see it as, you know, something that could be implemented by the students and the community, and different pieces of these projects could be brought together to create a community hub or a space. And then from there, you know, there's definitely pieces that can be replicated to sit in individual homes or in classrooms or in other community spaces. I love that there's a lot of ideas here on that. And I know that, you know, there's a lot of people in the community that are already doing stuff related to this and would be great stewards or partners in achieving some of these. You know, I've always thought about, you know, what if we had a little kind of kiosk like the kitchen cart for a space that maybe, you know, is not going to be permanent, but needs some type of programming and piloting. I think for most of our projects, just to give some context, because I'm meeting most of you for the first time, Ground Play, the program that I manage in the city, we do kind of tactical urbanism made into a bureaucratic process. So we find ways to make you know, what people were doing in the 90s and early 2000s, and kind of intervening the streets and putting stuff out. We try to do that in a more programmed way that the city will permit. And a lot of our projects are tests out in the street. We are testing out ideas. We're always kind of doing temporary and mobile. And that's also a way to get permits faster, to tell the city, this is temporary. We're not bolting to the ground. We're not pouring concrete here. So that really, you know, convinces our city engineers that this is not a threat to to liability and etc. So I think the way I see these is also that, you know, part of this, you could test out different things in a space. And, you know, for 1 month you have the kitchen cart, and you partner with La Cocina, or you partner with a restaurant on Third, like Tato SF. I know they do, like, you know, pay what you can Fridays, and they're very involved in the community, and Auntie April's. I'm sure there's a lot more that I don't know. And so you have, you know, rotational people coming out, and food always brings people out. And then in this space, you know, you can also create the gardens and teach people how to teach, you know, youth and people how to plant a garden, take home with them the plants, take home with them a kit of parts for their hydroponics, and then have the, you know, the make art not litter bins out there. And I just can see a lot of this connecting and creating kind of a bigger kind of just a program for the community, if you will.
Because if you imagine an urban fruit grove in containers, so that you actually create an orchard in some part of Bayview Hunters Point, and where that could be, probably you could help us with either organizations or spots. But imagine if there is an urban orchard that then could be organized. So just like farm to table, people often use the farms to bring people in to eat, but it could also define a classroom that could teach about the pollinators. The pollinators and the orchard they all actually go very well together. Probably the one that is not on land, that would be the floating, is different, but I think that's also that's actually very much in the wheelhouse of Architectural Ecologies Lab. So that's something that I really like how Chris brought a kind of using natural materials that the community could build. And Dennis, I think that's interesting because you have worked at scales, huge scales, working with, I'm sure maybe you have already done floating wetlands, and I wondered if you could give some insight in how you think that could work.
Yeah, I have specified that there is a product that's called, I think, floating islands, and I have specified that product. But I think this is a more clever idea because it can be handmade, and again, at scale. I wasn't clear on what the materials were, but it would be best if they were all recycled. You know, the best outcome of all of this is you're taking what people would normally term waste and turning it into ecological services. So I would challenge you to think in terms of materials that could do that. What comes to mind are the ubiquitous 1 gallon plastic milk jugs that always get recycled into plastic timber. But it seems to be if you assembled a bunch of them before they were recycled, they would provide a lot of buoyancy. So just being creative in thinking about consumer products that could be reused and reassembled to make these wetlands. And I love the idea of the scalability that you could just go do this. You could do one tomorrow. And then if people liked it, you do 2 more. And then you add to it every year. And it becomes a long-term project that's taken up in small bites is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become daunting. It just it accretes over time and you build upon its own success.
Yeah, I think that's true for every project, which is, I think, what you were saying, Maria, that's easier to digest in terms of permitting. Floating particularly, well, any of these, it can be taken away. So you can put them in place, but you can also take them away. Chris, you want to speak to what the materials were that you were thinking? But I love the idea that looking at resources, because I think the 4th graders would have a lot of ideas of, you know, what might create buoyancy, what could be recycled and used for this kind of thing, things that you see in your neighborhood, maybe vegetations that would be really good vines or really good mat material if they were rolled.
Yeah, well,
yep.
That's what I think makes them, you know, really interesting. Like Maria and me, we both have wetlands in our projects. I mean, the material, it could vary from hay. If you zoom in, you could see, like, there's this, I would say the regular type is a foam, like this biomass foam that's usually fabricated. But what makes it interesting is, like, you could, you know, gather some sort of sustainable material and build the netting or something to put it together. Just, it doesn't have to be, you know, one specific way. There's different ways to build it.
And what might also be interesting is there's a subtle notion in all of these about art making, that not only is it functional, but it's beautiful. So what if you looked at wetland plants for their aesthetic values and think about plants like arrowhead, which have a beautiful purple flower, and you said, okay, one of these little things is going to be all arrowhead because it'll have this sort of wonderful, fabulous purple color at different times of year. So you use the attributes and the aesthetic qualities of the plants in addition to their curative, restorative value.
Sort of the Andy goals where it can, that type of,
yeah,
you know, looking at what's available, but really curating the colors. And that could be the same. That's one of the things with Deb and Mitsuko and AJ's, their precedent was using light, you know, how you can at the top of those 2 images. And I think Mitsuko, you should describe it because you know that project, but I thought it was a beautiful example of what's possible with container trees.
Yeah, this is a project with Oliver Eliason, and he partnered actually with a landscape architect to create this like forest in a museum. So how to bring like plant life inside a museum and how to make that art.
But and coupled with light.
Yes.
Right. So you could imagine that, Maria, out in some space in Bayview. I mean, I'm thinking outside is even better than inside.
At nighttime would be beautiful as well.
Yeah. And then, you know, with I thought with MJ and Yui's and Valeria, Maria, and Elmer and Pietro, this kind of, you know, make art not litter and these DIY kinds of projects. When I was talking to MJ, you know, they really wanted to communicate that, just like you said, Dennis, that resources are everywhere. So eggshells could be a planter. You know, you don't have to buy them. You know, you can be really resourceful about thinking about how you can start seeds. And so maybe MJ, you could speak to that a bit.
Yeah, I think what our aim was to just have it to be a very learning experience for children, and also a way that they can find things around their home and kind of watch this grow over time, and also have them understand that this could be at different scales. So maybe later on, they can speak to other people in their neighborhood and you know, have some sort of garden and things like that.
So we only have about 10 more minutes, and I definitely want to, I think I'm really happy with this, that the response to these projects is resonating with you and Maria. And the next thing is, how do they happen? Like, how can you get some funding to begin? I love the idea of partnering with groups, but even with partnering, those are usually nonprofits. So how does funding happen? Dennis, how do you see in the East Coast that kind of thing happening? And then of course, here in San Francisco, how could we actually push this to not stay on paper and really start to enter a neighborhood as an idea that comes to life? That a student's idea of fruit trees could actually all of a sudden create this installation of a fruit grove, or the idea of picking up your litter. You can actually make art and that actually gets implemented. So it's not just something that stays in our heads. It's actually something that gets brought into the world.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that in your part of the world, you are swimming in tech companies. They all have their own sort of foundations or their own do-gooding kinds of things. I think that's a great source, because who wouldn't want to be associated with children making planet Earth better? This is an easy pitch. It really is.
Okay.
And the fact that these things are so scalable and you can start with a very modest thing, like, why wouldn't Facebook be interested in doing one of these things and forming a Facebook group around it and just letting it go? And all of a sudden you'd find another group starting a similar project in Florida or Detroit or whatever.
So do you think it is putting together a pitch, or that you think it already is a pitch? I mean, it's already legible and you can connect to it from that.
Well, it's all desirable. It's only legible if you connect the right pitch to the right source. So that's what I'm saying. You have to think of all the tech companies that are out there. That's your major source. You don't have, you know, heavy industry out there that you would court. What you have though is an unbelievable set of tech companies who are visionary thinkers, concerned about the future. They have climate change as part of their mission statements. And this fits so neatly within that. You just need to make a compelling case of why would they want to support this.
And Maria,
definitely,
you're you know, you deal with implementation and budgets, and how do you feel like these projects could actually get some traction?
Definitely
funding.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously the public sector funding that comes from, you know, most of our projects have been funded by supervisors. So I'm not sure how much Supervisor Walton is aware of this project, and I'm sure you've approached him at some point, and I know that he had been talking with the planning
That's
team.
good.
Honestly, is yeah.
Okay.
So definitely that's one way. I know that the cities right now are, a bit in trouble because of the pandemic, and funding is not as much as it used to. But there's definitely ways, like Dennis said, the companies that have actually made more profits during the pandemic are all the Silicon Valley. So that's one way. I know that also, for example, the Office of Economic and Workforce Development in the mayor's office, they have worked with nonprofits like San Francisco Parks Alliance to try to activate some plazas. I know that they were doing some activations on Mendel Plaza. So I could almost see this as, yeah, like I said, instead of going after, individual smaller grants, like this going into kind of for a bigger unified project. And I could almost see this as being like maybe like a 2-day festival in the Bayview, like have one of them on the ground at Mendel or at another location where community already are being part of, and then another one in the water where you can showcase, the boating and really kind of work together to team up and pair some of these projects together. I could definitely see that. There's obviously, if you choose to go individually, there's ways that we could kind of highlight and really outreach to our networks to see, how we could make these happen. But I don't know what's the timeline. I know you had mentioned, in the summer, and the students are graduating, and this would be kind of a summer type of implementation. Is that?
Everything takes time. I know, even just like the idea of one tree is very complex, but the students are all graduating, and some of them are here. And so I thought, depending on the scale, some of them are, MJ and Yui's, theirs is very much a small scale that could be a weekend. Although there is some, some ideas of a kind of notebook that would go with it that would take some time. But so the sooner, the better, I think. But of course, things take time. I just think it would be amazing for our students with the 4th grade students to somehow bring something to Bayview, and maybe it's over time. It's not something I want to wait to start a conversation about. So where would you say is a first place, like the first good place to have the next conversation? So we leave here with kind of like, okay, we've begun, where would we take the next step?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, we can definitely follow up offline and have a bigger conversation with the team who's been involved in the project, and then talk about what type of funding is available, what's the timeline that we're looking at, and most importantly, what's the site. I think having a site in mind is going to help us really start to materialize what would it take to make it happen. I suggested kind of a festival type of thing, because it's I think it's a bit easier to try to program something that's just an event based.
Yeah, and it's celebratory. And
right.
Like you said, Dennis, it's about, I love the fact that you kind of picked up, this is an art school, the architecture school is within the backdrop of an art school. And so I think it's, that's always something that we love about the work that comes out of CCA and our students.
Yeah, and I could see, if these prototypes are showcased, then the community will be able to say like, oh, we want this to stay, like we
stakeholders.
want.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Kind of like your Market Street prototype, but at a community scale.
Right, exactly. I put it in the chat there. I put a link in the chat. I don't know if the students had seen that website, but definitely that's something that I could see.
So, I wanted Deshaun. Deshaun is, Dixon was one of our students and works with the Malcom X students. So I wondered, after seeing these, what do you think, Deshaun, in terms of what's possible here? You've worked with these kids, you know the kind of timeline and the college student timeline and elementary school timeline.
Students, I mean, they took it to the next step. And it seems like when they have the opportunity to work with the fourth graders, the collaboration really made a difference. They went back and they took that community aspect into their, tectonics and into their design, into their concept, and really thought about how it could make a difference for the community. And just having this extra little time to figure out and, finish up and home in their designs, it makes all the difference, because now you can see how the filtering effect on certain stronger aspects of their projects can go into making a difference, not just for the class, but for the whole world. And that's really what the studio was about, not just about a studio for, doing something for the sake of a studio, but something that the whole world can clamp their teeth into and, use it to make a change, as a benchmark and a platform. And some of these projects, they home in on that. Maybe some a little bit specifically better with the community, but that's up to the community to see, where they want. But with the plant, with planting trees, that came with specifically from the students' mouth. So
the fourth graders.
Right, yeah, it came from the fourth graders' mouth. They never seen a tree planted, but they never ate a fruit from a tree before. So I just love to see how this can go, and love the conversation that we can have about it, about having this come into play with some funding.
With the partnership would be fourth graders and college students. That's what's pretty exciting. And there is a window of time, because there is investment with our college students right now that are graduating, and then the fourth graders will move on to fifth grade, so they'll be around and they live in Bayview. But there's something that we do want to capitalize in this moment of time. So
well, you guys students, I mean the college students, you guys gave the fourth graders a platform. Bravo. They have a voice, and that's what we want to do. We want to empower the community, let them know that their voice does count, and through your guys' projects, listening to them and implementing what they wanted to see, now that their voices have a platform, and it could become a benchmark for the world to see how this can help them out too. So keep going.
And one of the nice things, I'm going to have Maria and Dennis end this session for us. We are so grateful that you joined us. But with the Green New Deal and the Super Studio, this work has a national platform, which is also and that's happening in September. But Dennis, thank you for joining us, and maybe a few encouraging words for our student. You started that way too, think big. And now that you've seen the projects, what do you say? What do you want to leave them with?
Well, now I would say think small. Because all of these are big ideas, but what you've challenged us in this conversation is, well, how do I get something done in the next couple months? Well, think small, think scalable. And I think many of the things we have talked about, you actually could do something. So for example, the urban fruit grove, you could go to a local nursery that has trees for sale and say, could we borrow some of your trees for a weekend festival? I'm not kidding.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And they would say, sure. And all of a sudden you'd have free material. You could make your point. You could, again, what you're trying to do is build momentum.
Right.
And you want to build momentum with somebody else's money, right? So you could do that. And they would think of it as like a trade show and like a sponsorship opportunity. They would get their name out in the community, and then they would go back to their nursery.
Nice. Okay, that's a really interesting idea. Good. Maria.
Definitely, yeah, great idea from Dennis. Like, obviously, the more research you can get from people who already have them, that's the best way. And then, yes, like, just because you may only be able to implement a smaller part of the project or your design for now, doesn't mean that that's it, right? Like, think about how you can kind of plant the seed, pun intended, and then just let it take its own life. I mean, we've seen so many projects where we thought we were, installing some bench and planters, and then it became this community came out, they wanted a skate park, and then it just became a huge community hub. So definitely start with what you can do right now, and what kind of resources are available to you right now, and then implement that first part. And there can always be phase 2, phase 3, and we'll see.
Wonderful. Thank you, the panel. That was really, I'm so happy that you could join. And maybe Cheryl, I'm going to put you on the spot, Cheryl, but Cheryl is has been our connector to Malcom X. And you have an urban plan, you have all of the background in this. And maybe you could have the final thoughts, since, you've been working with these kids for many, many years in this neighborhood.
Well, thank you, Margaret, and congratulations to the CCA students. I want to commend you on generously extending your creativity and talents to the 4th graders in the public school community in Bayview. As important, you listened, you respected, you honored the students' ideas. They just came through beautifully in the work that you shared today. You used your skills and your enormous talent to translate those ideas into actionable, imaginative proposals. And Y-Plan in the past has worked closely with Malcom X to actually translate some of the students' ideas into buildable projects. And we've actually built them with the students, and it's been tremendously fun, gratifying, and inspiring to do that. So we look forward to continuing this partnership of universities, public schools, the planning department, and all these professionals in NOMA and other architects, and hope to use those skills and that collaboration to make something really happen. I've got some great ideas brewing in my brain, so thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Cheryl. And thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for being here today. Thanks to the students. It was excellent.
Yeah, thanks to everybody. A lot of great work.
Yeah, thank you all. I was happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Dennis. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you. We'll follow up, Margaret. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maria. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Congratulations, everyone.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Get some rest now.